This is the buttermilk biscuit recipe that I grew up with, and it's still one of my favorites. I posted a shorter video, and a lot of people have had questions on it, and so I thought I would do a longer video just to clarify some. Also, in the recipe that is listed on the screen, that is 1 times. When I made the recipe, I love a lot of extra ones, and so I did 3 times it on the video that you're seeing. So I start by putting in the flour, and then I add in like the salt and the just those dry ingredients, and I use my pastry blender and mix them in. It doesn't call for much butter or oil into the recipe, and that's okay. It's like a teaspoon. It's just not a large amount, but use your pastry blender to mix all of that together before you add in the buttermilk. And then the key to this ingredient is you're going to put it, the original recipe calls for oil. I like the buttery flavor. I put a cube of butter on, or a stick of butter onto a cookie sheet, and I put it in the oven so that it will melt while I'm doing this mixing part. So I take that pastry blender and I mix in that buttermilk, and you're gonna have to get your hands dirty. So I use the pastry blender until I realize I can't do this anymore. And then I clean off that pastry blender and I take my hands and I just start mixing it with my fingers. That's probably the best way to do it. So mix until you can't anymore. And then here I'm flouring the surface, and see what I'm doing right here. I push down, fold it in half, push down, and then I'm going to fold it in half again, push down, and keep doing that until there's not any loose flour in the bottom of it. Take that loose flour and just kind of mix it in with the dough, fold it in half, push it down, and this is kind of like kneading it right here. And when you've mixed it up enough, then you can put it out on that floured surface. And I don't really use a rolling pin here. I just use my hands to gauge the thickness. I want it about 1 inch thick. These things are going to puff up. And so you don't want it super puffy because then the middles don't get as done. And so I'm just using my hands to kind of gauge about 1 inch thick, and I'm making those edges everywhere the same. Then you take that butter, that melted butter, put it around the whole pan, and then I like this really large cup. I know you can use those fancy cookie cutter things. I just use a cup because then I can vary the sizes, and I'm just kind of making sure that it is flat and that it's, about 1 inch, and then you pretty much coat the outside and then push it to a corner, and then just cut more out, put it in that butter, flip the biscuit over, and then just push it up to the edge. And you're trying to get everything coated with that butter because this is what's going to make it so good. All right, so the leftover dough here, I'm just pushing it to the middle, and then I'm just squeezing it in there. I'm going to fold it in half, push it down, fold it in half again, push it down, kind of knead it to where it's all incorporated really, really well. And then I'm going to, again, use my hands just to make sure it's the same height, thickness as the biscuits that I already have on the cookie sheet. And then I'm just going to continue to cut more and more out of them. I think I end up getting 9 out of this recipe, but again, these are large biscuits. I struggled to eat 1 biscuit with the gravy on it all the way. So you're going to put it in the oven at 500 degrees. That is really, really hot, so don't walk away from it. It only bakes for 8 to 10 minutes. Let's just say you get these out and they're not all the way done. You can pop them back in the oven. Just loosely place a piece of foil covering the top, and it keeps it from burning. And cook it for about another 2 minutes, and it'll make sure that that center is done, but the edges are not burnt. And then here's this country gravy that I'm uploading a video for today that you can spoon over it. And this recipe is so delicious. The leftovers are even amazing.